Question 12 then from the 2016 paper 1 of the Higher Maths. There we go. Composition of functions. Function of a function. 2 marks for the first part. If h of x is f of g of x, it said show that the result should be this. So it actually gives you the answer and you have to check that. That's just to save the marking when it comes to part B, when it says express it in this completed squared form. Well, first part would be to say, well, what's f acting on? It's acting on this. It's acting on 3 minus x. What does f do to anything it gets hold of? And we just ignore x now as such. That's just an example of what you're feeding into f. It'll do 2 times what you feed it squared. So it'll do 2 times this thing, this whole 3 minus x squared, minus 4 times what you feed it. So 4 times this whole thing, 3 minus x plus 5. That's the first mark. Now you can't just jump from that to this final answer. It says show it's equal to this and then put equals 2x squared and so on. You're not going to get that mark unless you show some working, some intermediate steps. You need to anyway, you've got to multiply that out. So it's 2 times, square the first, twice the product will be minus 6x, square the last, minus 12, but plus 4x plus 5. Still tidying. 18 minus 12x plus 2x squared, but still minus 12 plus 4x plus 5. I know I could have tidied that to minus 7, but it doesn't matter. Then, put it in the required order, 2x squared minus 8x plus 11. Now you get the second mark for h of x. Now part B, write it in the form of px plus q squared plus r, but it doesn't actually ask you to state the values of them, just put it into this form. So what is h of x equal to? Well, the first thing is, it's nice and easy to put into that form when you've just got a single x squared. So take that 2 out of it. That'll be x squared. That'll drop down to 4x. There's no need to include the 11, so I think I'll just leave that outside. Leave it inside if you like as an 11 upon 2. Now the first mark is for taking out this 2. Now it's all ready to go. If this is the expanded form of some square, then it must have been square the first, so that's quite clearly x. Square the last I don't know, but twice the product was minus 4. I've got the x already, so twice this number is minus 4, so that must be minus 2. Now I can do square the last plus 4. Now you may or may not show that part and just think in your head I'll need to take it away because that was extra, so I'll need to remove the equivalent of what I've added. You added a 4 in the bracket, so you've really added 2 4s. You've added 8, so I'll need to take away 8, so that means the final answer is plus 3. And the mark was getting the negative 2 in the bracket, completing this bracket part was the second mark, and getting the 3 was the final mark. Now there is another way to do part B, which hardly anybody would do, which is to say, if that's to be written into this form, then this is going to be an identity. This isn't an equation to solve. So corresponding terms must be the same. The x squared terms must be the same, the x terms and the constants must be the same. So if you expand this to look like that, you can equate the corresponding coefficients. Well, expanding that would be x squared plus q squared, there's an r at the end, plus twice the product, 2qx. Now multiply it out into the 3 parts. There's only one part that says x squared, so that's px squared plus 2pqx plus pqx plus pq squared plus r. There's the 3 parts. They're meant to be identical. Now if you did do it this way, you wouldn't get your first mark until you'd multiplied all of that out. Much easier doing it this way. And then you would start to equate them. That means the x squared terms must be the same. We'll put it that way. X squared terms are the same. That means that p must equal 2 straight away. The x terms must be the same. That means 2pq should equal negative 8. We already know that p is 2. So 2 times q equals negative 8. That's 4 times it, so q must equal negative 2. And then the constant term, pq squared plus r should equal 11. Well, you already got p is 2. Q is negative 2, you have to square that, plus r should make 11. Well, that comes to 8, so that means r must be 3. But then you have to write it into the required form, so that would equal p was 2, x plus q, q is minus 2 squared, plus r was 3. Now, doing it this way, you had to go through all of that to get the first mark. You don't get the second mark until you've equated all three coefficients. That being 2, that being negative 8, and that being 11. And then you don't get the third mark until you've worked them out and written it in the required form. So you're much better off doing it this way.